Hi friends, and welcome to this session on reading comprehension. This is our first session in the series of 5. So without wasting any time, let's get going to this session. This session would cover basics of reading comprehension. So the agenda of this session would be firstly to understand what is reading comprehension. Then why do we include reading comprehension in various exams? The third thing which we would be covering in this session is what are the common myths about reading comprehension, and finally something to ace reading comprehension. Let's go to first topic, which is what is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension, as the name specifies, consists of two things. First is reading and second is comprehending. What is reading? Generally in reading comprehension there is an extract of 300 to 400 words in our CSAT exam. So you have to read that extract. It's not just a casual reading, but much more focused reading. So I'm sure you might have read magazines, you might have read gossip columns, as well as other page 3 articles. But reading comprehension in an exam is nothing like that. It has to be a focused reading. The intent of reading comprehension is understanding the passage and make various conclusions. So you have to understand what the author is trying to say in a reading comprehension exercise. And finally, you have to comprehend what author is trying to say. When I say what author is trying to say or communicate, I mean the tone of the passage, the central idea of the passage, the mode of the passage, etc. You have to understand all these while solving reading comprehension problems in paper. So reading comprehension is not just any other reading or just an English language test, but it's much more than that. It analyzes your understanding skills, it analyzes your analytical skills, and to an extent it analyzes your English language skills, or in general any language skills. So why do we include reading comprehension in various exams? So you must have seen that there is a reading comprehension question in CSAT, in CAT, in Bank PO, or irrespective of the kind of exam, there is invariably reading comprehension questions. So we have to understand that why do we need reading comprehension in such exams, in such journalistic exams. So is it to check our language skills, or is it to check our reading speed, or is it to check our vocabulary? Most of us think that RC is to check these skills, but this is wrong. RC is not meant to check these skills, but RC is meant to understand our check our understanding. So whether we can understand what the author is trying to say, can we make a meaning out of what is written in a passage or not? That's what RC is based for. It is also used to check whether we can apply what we have read, right? So in a passage, for example, author might give you certain thoughts, right? An RC exercise or questions based on that RC exercise might ask you to apply those concepts in particular situation. So RC helps an examiner to understand whether the examinee can apply particular knowledge or not. And last but not the least, it tests your ability to communicate with a piece of language, with a written piece of language, right? So when you go to a particular job, let's say a public service job, you have to read lots of documents, you have to go through lots of pages of text and literature, and for that you have to have a habit of reading, first of all, and secondly you should be able to understand the kind of communication which author is trying to make. So RC is particularly to check that ability of yours. So keeping all this in mind, if you approach RC, I think it would become very easy and very rewarding exercise for you. let's now understand what are few common myths about RC. We have already seen few myths, but there are many more which most of the aspirants have in their mind. The first myth which many of us have is that we need very high command over language to ace reading comprehension. So this is a common misnomer amongst many aspirants, that they need a very strong English language skill to ace reading comprehension. But if you just look at past past year papers of CSAT or Bank PO or any other exam, you would see the piece of reading comprehension or piece of the comprehension which appeared in the paper was very simple. It was nothing very fancy, or it does not include very heavy words. So you might not need a very good command over English language, but you should have a very good command on understanding English language, right? The second is reading speed matters. Most of the coaching institutes have have put on emphasis on reading speed, right? But if you see generally in a CSAT kind of exam, a reading comprehension is of 300 to 400 words. Even if you have a reading speed of 100 words per minute, which is very common, or even 80 words per minute, you would require around 3 to 4 minutes to read this passage. And reading speed, if you read very fast and you do not understand the passage at all, it kills the entire purpose. So an optimum reading speed is essential, where you read in a fairly nice pace as well as you understand the comprehension as well. Unless and until you understand the comprehension, increasing reading speed would not help. It's not any piece of text which you are reading, it's very important piece of text. It's a very concise piece of text which you are reading. So you have to lay emphasis on comprehension rather than just reading speed. As far as your reading speed is concerned, if you are somewhere between 80 to 120 words per minute, it's more than sufficient to ace the CSAT kind of exam. So I think reading speed does matter to a very small extent, not to a very large extent. The next myth, I have a very poor vocabulary. I don't have very good vocabulary. Again, this is a myth. You are not here asked about a particular word meaning, or you are not to answer a question related to a particular word, but what you have to do is you have to understand the complete sentence. And if there is a word which is new to you, if you read it in the context of entire passage, you would very easily understand the meaning of the particular word. And at the end of the day, it's comprehending the entire passage, right? It's not about a particular word or one or two words here and there. So poor vocabulary would not hamper your chance of getting good score in reading comprehension at all. The next myth is reading comprehension is an intrinsic talent and cannot be learnt. So many of you said that I am poor at reading, right? So you have assumed that once you are poor at reading, it's your intrinsic quality, right? It's nothing like that. Just like you can ace mathematics, basic numeracy, mental ability, you can ace reading comprehension with practice, with few skills which we would be learning in this series, and few tried and tested ways of reading, right? And obviously a lot of practice is required in acing reading comprehension. So do not worry if you are poor at reading comprehension at this point of time. With practice and with a systematic approach to read as well as to perform question, I'm sure you would get good marks in reading comprehension exercises as well. And finally, poor reading habits of past means I will be poor in reading comprehension. Again, this is a myth and this has nothing to do with reality. So just be positive about reading comprehension. Approach reading in a very positive way. We would be covering the topic on how to approach reading in next session, right? And I hope that with that systematic approach, your reading skills in general would increase. That would help you in CSAT paper 2. That's okay, but that would help you in general reading as well. So for example, if you are reading a history chapter for your GS paper, it would help you in that as well. We'll discuss that in detail in our session 2. Here are some general tips of how to ace reading comprehension. First is, you have to understand, right? Not just read but understand. The main emphasis of reading comprehension is understand, understand and understand. So you have to comprehend, you have to understand the passage, what is being said in the passage. By understanding, it might mean to know the central idea of the passage, to understand the tone of the passage, to understand what kind of mood the author is bringing in while writing this passage and all that stuff. So you have to understand all that stuff while reading a passage. Another important tip is, each passage or each extract would be divided into 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs. So you can take notes of each of those paragraphs and construct a summary. We'll again go in detail about this point in session 2. Another important thing which you can do to ace reading comprehension is underline the keywords and make a note of these keywords, right? So there are certain keywords in each passage. You have to make a note of these keywords. Again, a practical example would be shown in session 2. And finally, you have to empathize with the author. This is the most important thing. You have to understand, you have to place yourself in author's shoes and understand what he is trying to say. If and only if you can develop this quality, you can ace reading comprehension, right? So you have to understand the author's point of view. There are many point of views which you might be having. You have to keep those point of views aside and you have to just understand what author is trying to say, right? You have to just keep away your biases towards a particular topic and just understand what is author trying to say. And if you keep all this stuff in mind, as well as the basic construct of reading comprehension questions, I'm sure that you would approach it in a very positive way and you would be very easily able to ace the reading comprehension problems. Generally, out of 80 questions in CSAT, 20 to 25 questions are reading comprehension based. So even if you want to achieve very good scores, you cannot leave reading comprehension aside. So a good score in reading comprehension could be a 70% or even a 60% score, because here the accuracy might suffer, right? Because the option choices can be very near. So a 70% score or an 80% score is what we should aim at in reading comprehension exercises. This is all about session 1. We'll cover the basic techniques of reading and how to approach reading in general in session 2. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. You understood the basic purpose of reading comprehension exercise in an exam like CSAT, and you also had an idea now how to approach reading comprehension problem in general, right? We'll talk more about reading comprehension in upcoming sessions. Till then, all the best for your preparations and have a nice day. Thanks.